called earlier this evening. I said, what do you want me to talk about tonight on the show? And he said, I want you to tell them who you are. I live in a cowtown, but you know what? I lead a lot of smart people. The media wants to think we're a cult because we pray for God to show us and keep leading us into tearing down the strongholds of Satan and the New World Order.
Cults 30 years ago were very different than they are now.
Right now, if we want to know about something, we go online.
Ties to a cult may have led to a fatal shooting in Monroe County. A woman is now in custody for shooting her boyfriend in the head.
This went down because Sherry Schreiner manipulated Steve Mineo and my ex-wife Barbara.
She told them 24 times that this was an accident. They simply refused to believe it.
I swear, if Steve never met that girl, man, he'd still be alive.
Stephen was angry and wanted to die because he got kicked out of that cult.
I felt like killing myself because of her. Sherry Schreiner's a false prophet. And the longer this information is hidden, that's another day that goes by of another Sherry Schreiner victim.
Kelly's dead. I think Sherry Schreiner is a predator and like the epitome of evil.
What did she have to make otherwise nice and normal people embrace this madness and paranoia?
I learned a lot from Sherry. She put her life at stake to get this information out there.
They've been trying to kill me for over a decade, and I'm still alive. Why? Because of the fatherhood. Why do they want to kill me? Because they know I speak the truth.
The heresy that Sherry was presenting on her websites, her podcast, is 100% counter to the gospel.
When we are talking about people who are joining cults, there is this price of participation.
She generated over $774,000 over a 10-year period.
I think that she sees these tragedies as a way to prove that she was right all along. This is part of her ministry. This is part of her business plan.
I always said I wasn't here to build an army, I'm here to wake one up. So I need your financial support, I need your help, I need warriors in countries to stand up. The clock's winding down. We can't go to sleep, we gotta fight back. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Sherry Schreiner. Sit down. The last 2 Mondays have been just chaos. Like 2 weeks ago, right before my show, they kidnapped my dog. I have a puppy, pit bull, that my daughter had rescued. She got abducted before the show. She just disappeared. And, that's how we're raising it, and I just hated the thing. I was scared to death of it. Now I'm totally in love with it. She's practically my baby now. And she came back at 8:30 the next morning. And I know darn well where she was at, but I'm not going to say much. But ends up, they put video chip implants behind her eye. And so, if you ever have pets disappear and then come back out of nowhere, like 24 hours later, that's typically what they do. It's not the first pet I've had they've done this to. It's maddening, but she wasn't harmed. She was kept safe. And then last week, all the witches were all huddled together across the country, and they were trying to put some kind of portal down through my ceiling.
What is absolutely critical for Sherry is to find ways to show that her life is constantly under threat from Satan. Everything's part of a larger conspiracy. One time her dog ran away, but Sherry's dog doesn't run away. Sherry's dog gets kidnapped by the government, or Sherry's dog gets run down by the MK Ultra, and it has a chip implanted in it. So if Sherry is constantly under attack, that proves that Satan is out to get her, and that proves how important she is.
Satan tries so hard to suppress us, to keep us unknown, to keep the truths that I reveal from getting out and people waking up. And then he works overtime to have people try to discredit me and hate me and steer people's opinions against me. It's just a constant battle. And so... yeah, they want to attack me, so I can't speak. Feels like somebody has their hands around my throat. I have heart attacks all the time. My chest was hurting all weekend. I'm not dead, but the Father won't let him kill me. But it's debilitating to be in pain all the time and unable to breathe and move. But even with my last breath, doing something, tear down their stronghold.
Sherry wasn't in great health. She'd had a couple heart attacks. She had general health issues. She smoked. So for her, though, explaining her absences couldn't be, I had a physical ailment. Her absences always had to be explained in terms of her war with Lucifer. And her followers believed this in a real way. They took it as proof that Sherry was who she said she was, because otherwise, why would she keep having these heart attacks? Why would the devil constantly be trying to kill her if she wasn't special to God?
I never plan on surviving another month. The only reason I'm here is because the grace of the Father keeps me here. I never plan on surviving. I'm on the White House top 10 kill list for over a decade now. And I know as soon as the Father says, okay, she's done, I'm gone. I have no qualms about that. I don't live like I'm going to be here 6 months from now or a year or 2 years. I get what I can done now. Anyway, folks, be back on Monday night. Don't forget to support your favorite ministry on the planet. Go to SherryShriner.com and click on the donate page. Till next week, everybody. God bless.
I was genuinely disappointed to find out that Sherry Shriner was dead. Because, you know, I had hoped to get to interview her, to talk to her about all of this. You know, you want to get a sense whether she really believed what she said. And I feel like if I got to talk to her, I'd at least know.
But of course, she did die. She died of a heart attack.
In early January of 2018. I love the myth building around Sherry Shriner's death. I think it is absolutely fantastic. God told her to go up to her room and to get ready for bed, and so she did. And she was listening to her praise music. And then God took her. She didn't die, and that is critical. If she died, that meant that the devil has succeeded in killing her body. So instead of letting the devil kill her, God took her soul before the devil could get to her. It's so absurd. But they're building the myth that, you know, Sherry will be back when Jesus comes back. And the myth that she didn't die so much as she was taken.
plenty of her followers, of course, are skeptical when somebody tells you for years and years that every death is the result of a NATO hit squad or some great conspiracy theory. Of course, people are going to believe that when their leader passes.
When I was speaking with one of her followers, they thought Sherry was still alive. And that just made me tantalized for so long, longer than I should have been, that Sherry might still be alive. I wanted it to be true. I wanted her to have bowed out, and just like take the money and run. Sherry wasn't alive. It's absurd to think that she was, but when you're dealing with all these conspiracy people, right, then you become part of it. You're like, well, how do I know? How do I know? And it's so easy to get dragged into that because once you start entertaining the absolutely absurd, it just gets easier and easier to do it.
What's interesting is that her websites are still active and that the people who followed her, they still seem to hold on to a lot of those beliefs.
Sherry's Facebook page is still active. People still post on it. Her followers still post on it. They repost Sherry's old stories as if they were prophecy. And the whole mechanism is still running. Someone is still running it. I joined her Patreon. They took my $1. I bought her book. They took my $10. That money got in the bank and that money got spent. Someone's still running this. This is a machine that is still happening. Sherry being dead doesn't mean that they can't still cash in on her ministry. So the question becomes, who's running Sherry's ministry?
I've not wasted one day of my life over the last 10 years in this alien agenda. I've hit the nail on the head constantly because I am the Lord's mouthpiece on earth, and I am here to warn and prepare his people for the things that are coming. I think when you get a total picture package of what the information everybody gives you, then you can finally realize exactly what's going on around you and put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
What really compelled me early on was what was Sherry's appeal? What drew people to her? How did she wield this kind of power without ever leaving her house? She called herself this plain country girl in the backwoods of Ohio, and there wasn't anything appealing about her. It absolutely puzzled me how a woman like this got the reach and effect that she was able to get.
Sherry Schreiner's cult was really a social media network. She had podcasts, she had lots of YouTube videos, she had, a regular radio show, websites, Facebook pages that she aggressively moderated. It was a digital world where people could go and learn her views to the exclusion of everything else.
My name is Samuel Woolley. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Journalism at the University of Texas at Austin. My research is mostly focused on the ways in which new media technology, everything from social media to virtual reality, gets used in attempts to manipulate public opinion, so to change the way that people think and feel about particular ideas. 20, 30 years ago, Sherry Schreiner would have been laughed off the stage in any major venue because her ideas are so preposterous and far out there. But now you have people like Sherry Schreiner, lots of people like her, who are online, who have followings in the millions, getting views and actually getting buy-in.
The rise of conspiracy theories lately is certainly tied to the internet. I mean, it's certainly facilitated by the internet, but the question is, why are people looking? What makes them feel like they have to give up on the official story and find out what's really going on?
People are more likely to spread bad news or false information because that stuff is sensational. It sells, it's interesting. And because information spreads so fast online, you'll see pickup of particular conspiracies or particular ideas from country to country really quickly in a way that you never would have seen it before. And so it's kind of like disinformation or conspiracy on steroids today. Now, a huge proportion of Americans get their journalism and their news from Facebook or Twitter. Their perception is that this is a viable, good place to get information, and that's way different than, say, like the tabloids of old, right? Because social media is almost a melting pot of good, bad, and ugly information. And the thing is, it's all dressed up oftentimes in the veneer of like quality or trustworthiness. And Sherry Shriner in particular had the kind of amazing combination of being able to put people into that trance-like state with this just constant barrage of interesting, weird, conspiratorial information, combined with the power of social media and the reach that social media afforded her.
See, truth only sounds crazy to people who don't want to hear it. You get so comfy in your false doctrine that you don't want to hear that you're wrong in your doctrine, that your beliefs are wrong. And you'll do anything to protect them. Most people will do anything to protect their illusions. And what's the Father say? He says their illusions aren't going to protect them any longer because they're going to wake up to a cold, stark reality this year. This year is going to be a wake-up call. For the most part, for a lot of them, it won't be for the good side. You know, wake up because they're under attack and they can't explain why.
In terms of who believes in conspiracy theories, it's important to understand that it's really potentially anybody. When we first hear conspiracy theories, we often think that they might sound very outlandish and that the person believing them might be crazy. And it's really clear that that's not the case. I think we all have the potential to believe in conspiracy theories. And so it's not necessarily about one type of person. I think it more speaks to what's going on socially, what other kinds of beliefs that we have that might align with that conspiracy theory. So probably the best predictor of who believes in conspiracy theories are people who are mistrustful of authoritative accounts of information.
These kinds of ideas about lizard people or things, while you might laugh at them at first, what you need to realize is that there's people in all levels of government, that there's people who work for major news media organizations, and that there's people just next to you on the street that believe in QAnon and believe in conspiracy theories like the theories that Sherry was spreading. These things have become pervasive.
Q is the best thing that has ever happened to you.
I feel the Democrats are in working with China.
How do you trust the media when they're only reporting the side that they want you to hear?
The President Trump is in charge of the Federal Reserve System, which was set up and established by Satan in 1913 by killing all those who oppose it on the Titanic.
I think it's more of mainstream science.
Now, is God sitting there? Is he listening to the interview between you and the devil?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so this is from the Cook County Chronicle. It says the unregulated cadaver parts industry helped build Rosemont's reputation for surgical training. Rosemont is centered around body harvesting, cadaver harvesting, cadaver selling. It hosts the same building as the police department. This is all such a setup, folks.
I can see how people got drawn in to the train wreck that was Sherry Shriner's Facebook page. And it's often just, this is a piece of news and this is a blatant misinterpretation of it. But if you're not an informed person, if you have no idea about how the world works, then I guess that makes sense to you.
Well, guess what? I'm not a damn clone and I ain't in hell. And you know what? I really don't give a hell what y'all think.
She's got witches getting together. She's got voodoo.
Dedicated to all Oregon warriors, not warriors, but warriors around the globe.
But I can't see how people could get past the reptiles. Once she starts talking about the reptiles, I'm shocked. Today, right now, still absolutely shocked that she doesn't lose everybody at reptiles.
So this appears to be like clone number 4 of Barb Rogers that I know of. Clearly you can see she's morphing, she's synthetic.
Watching this, like, one of the things that you start to realize really quick is that what Sherry's doing here is exhibiting what we call a cheap fake.
Her hand morphs in and out in all of her pictures. Look at her pinky. This is the first thing I noticed. And then look at the length of this palm of her hand.
So in the picture where she's saying, look at her palm, look at her fingers, you can also see that the rest of the video is completely blurry, right? And it's not like actually that she is any different. It's that the whole picture is blurry because she's paused it at a particular moment.
Now this clearly is a 42-year-old woman, but it's not the one that was dating Steve Mineo.
And then you have all these pictures of Barbara here, where Sherry's saying, look, it's a much younger woman. The lighting is like drastically different in all of these images. You're talking about selfies that someone's taken of themselves at their own home versus a mugshot. It's like being a magician, right? Like sleight of hand. Like you try to get people to look at one thing and they're not looking at everything else.
I mean, come on, folks. These are two different people. The one dating Steve, the one arrested. What's going on here? What's the game? Total psyop, folks.
It's like pseudo-investigation, and it's not surprising that it's convincing to people because like people don't really look at the whole context. They're willing to believe what you want them to believe, and that's why magic works. It's why a lot of snake oil sales work.
Yo, thank you, $1.
There's a perception that like people like Sherry or other conspiracy theorists online are consigned to like this very small portion of the internet. They don't matter, that their behavior are not really a widespread phenomenon, and they're not really important. That's incorrect.
I am Guillaume Shadow, and I'm working on the impact of AI on society. We're starting to have artificial intelligence in control everywhere in our life. But for social media, for algorithms that control our information, right now we have very little transparency. So for instance, I was working on recommendations at YouTube. We were mostly looking at watch time, because the longer people watch videos, the more ads YouTube can put. People spend 1 billion hours every day on YouTube, so that's 114,000 years spent on YouTube every single day. More than 70% of the watch time comes from the recommendations, so comes from an AI. When you're on YouTube, you feel that you have the control. You feel that you can click on every recommendation. But actually, the algorithm has the control because it chooses those recommendations. So you have a little bit of control, but within the control of the algorithm. And since 70% of the view come from these recommendations, actually it's the algorithm that control humans.
This is something that's really, really important. The more people that watch, the more eyeballs on the screen, the more ads that get consumed, the more money YouTube makes. And remember that people share bad information more than good information, and conspiratorial information more than factual information. What's going to make you more money there?
One example that was shocking was around a flat Earth video. When you asked YouTube if the Earth was flat or round, then you had videos that told you the Earth is flat and videos that told you the Earth is round. But when you continue watching recommendation after recommendation, more than 90% of videos were telling you that the Earth is flat, just because the flat Earth video creates more watch time. On Facebook, 2/3 of the terrorist groups that were joined following the recommendation of an algorithm. That's the same issue than on YouTube. Like you have an algorithm that tries to radicalize people just because radical people spend more time on the platform. So by design, the Sherry Shriner cult is the optimal strategy for YouTube. A cult is when people only listen to one person. So they dedicate all their time listening to the guru. So YouTube is going to favor cults over and over again because they create more engagement, because people spend all their time listening to the guru. With people like Sherry Shriner, they can be recommended tens of times to the same person, so they don't know the first time they came across her because they got recommendations again and again from the YouTube algorithm. And at some point they click and they feel like it was their choice to click on her video. YouTube doesn't create a cult by its own, but it's pushing them in this direction. They see that videos that they do that are more cult-like, it's what works with the algorithm. Polarized people are very good for watch time because they spend a lot of time just listening to the same thing over and over again, the same opinion over and over again. Since they are great for watch time, the algorithm is favoring that.
And this whole Civil War thing coming, and Obama just paved the way to start a Civil War. And so we're getting ready. We're pretty much ready for this arrival, this turnabout of America, and everybody has seen it coming. It's a war, folks. It's a war, and you need to decide which side you're on.
I don't think people are getting more paranoid, but I think they're getting more comfortable with paranoid ideas. They can exist in an echo chamber where they think that everyone thinks like them. Right? We all feel like we're the reasonable people, and then there are people who are less reasonable than us and people who are crazier than us.
You are being reacted and not listening. No, because you're fucking wrong.
The internet gives us the ability to reinforce that in ways that only cults used to have.
The kind of content that you saw coming out of Sherry's YouTube channel and that continues to come out after her death is really indicative of a larger kind of cultural movement we're experiencing in America. Yes, the religious right has been growing for a long time, but there's also been a fragmentation of people's perspectives in the last 10, 20, 30 years. And Sherry was very much a part of that.
I think there's good evidence that mistrust is at a peak, or I guess you could also say that trust is at a low point in American history, at least when we go back looking 50 or 60 years. There's actually good evidence that this rising tide of mistrust and distrust of experts is really a worldwide event. And politically, it's really something that's often associated with populist movements. And right now in history, we're seeing a lot of populist political movements on the rise, including here in the US.
So when I was at YouTube, I noticed that the algorithm was putting people into filter bubbles. By design, we could only show you things that you already liked. When you're in real life and many people tell you the same thing, then it increases the probability that this thing is actually true. But when you're online, when you look at something, the algorithm will give you exactly the same thing that what you looked at. So it doesn't increase the probability that it's true, it's just a filter bubble. So online world is very different from real life. An example of filter bubble, when you look at a conspiracy video, then the algorithm thinks, wow, we looked at this conspiracy video, so let's show him similar conspiracy video. So then you look at another conspiracy video that tells you basically the same thing than the first one. And then the algorithm thinks, wow, we really like this type of content. So he shows you a third conspiracy video that says exactly the same thing.
Do you still believe the world is flat, Mr. Bolivar?
Yes, sir, I do.
Why?
So you have the feeling over and over that everybody agrees on that. So you're like in this filter bubble that's created by an algorithm. Sherry Shriner has probably been recommended by the algorithm in the tens of millions of times. So we probably wouldn't have heard of her if it was not for the algorithm.
You know, I think the challenge with the internet is just how it evolves from this point on. Right now, I think there's a lot of attention to the fact that belief in misinformation is running rampant because of the internet.
Social media companies are sort of playing whack-a-mole right now. They're seeing what the issue of the day is. Journalists are mad about certain white supremacist groups. Okay, we'll take those groups offline. But they don't really address the core issue, which is groups recommending other groups that will promote these extreme views. So They're responding in some respects, but it's sort of, they're trying not to get sued.
There's a lot of defensiveness when you talk to people that work at social media firms or major technology firms about the ways in which their tools get used. And so when people get upset and say, we're just the platform, it really frustrates me. You make billions of dollars off of these people, and you also direct them about what they should view and when. And so when people end up viewing Sherry's content and murders get committed, someone's to blame there. And certainly the person that held the murder weapon holds culpability. But the platforms themselves also have some culpability there because they allowed these people to become famous. Not only did they allow them passively, they pushed their content to all kinds of people and made it widespread.
This radio show is universal. This radio show is being heard in every country in this world, every island that has a computer. This radio show is global. And so a lot of these people that I'll never meet, have never heard from, you can just watch America. Watch the demise and the destruction of America. It's exactly where you are in end-time prophecy if you're not sure where you are. Because America is going to be destroyed. America is going to be completely destroyed.
After Sherry's death, I was watching how her Facebook page developed, and it was clear that there was someone still running things. Their Facebook page keeps getting posted to, and I know that Marianne Malloy was very involved with Sherry's ministry, and at least in supporting it, and the same with Beverly Nelson. There's this person, Rhonda Z, who was really prominent. And of course, her daughter, Melanie. As far as I can tell, the hierarchy is Sherry, and then her daughter, Melanie, and then the lieutenants would be Marianne Malloy and Beverly Nelson. I know Melanie, her daughter, is responding from the social accounts, so I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that she's at least doing the administrative stuff. If not, also going back and finding the appropriate prophecy for the day or for the time to put out on Sherry's behalf. It looks very much like what we've heard about, Christianity, trying to keep the message alive till the boss comes back.
I think we're seeing a massive rise in online cults. There's tons of them, and they have followers in the millions online, subscribers on YouTube that equal some of the most popular celebrities that Hollywood has produced. You have cult leaders who function the exact same way. They reach audiences in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So there is a sort of concern here.
Sherry Schreiner's beliefs seem really fringe, and it seems like how could anybody believe in that? Or if they believed in that, what's the use in reaching out to them? But these beliefs really alienate people from the rest of the world. It separates them from their families, from their jobs, from really interacting normally in society. And I think it's incredibly sad.
After Sherry died, there's a resurgence of other cults that have picked up a lot of the same messaging Sherry Schreiner had. So the idea of the reptilian aliens, the idea of the Illuminati, the idea that, the world's religions are corrupt and the tool of Satan, you see that continuing. You see the messages that Sherry promoted continuing to develop and continuing to adapt to the changing political climate and the changing social climate. Sherry is dead and buried, but the ideas that she promotes are alive and well.
Hillary is not human, folks. She's not even close to human. They keep pulling out clones of her. The real one died 2012. And so they've been using clones of her since. How can they get away with thousands of abductions, kidnappings, and murders every month? Maybe they abduct these people And they put them in underground bases and breed them, and that's the ones they're killing for all their rituals. To rape and kill children. It's part of their sacrifices to Satan. It's part of their Satanist ritual. And I'm not talking once or twice a year. I'm talking about doing this constantly. They do it several times a week. They go on lunch breaks in the Pentagon. They go to the basement, underground base, and the Pentagon, and they would rape and kill kids. I mean, how many human organs can you eat? How much human blood can you drink without it ever affecting you? And of course it's going to affect you. But Satan is coming and he's death. He is the king of death. He's going to cause all this death and destruction.
We see these conspiratorial beliefs increase in moments of uncertainty. And there are a lot of corresponding conspiracy theories and paranoias emerging right now. Those have real, tangible effects. People are going on interstate manhunts because they believe in satanic child sex trafficking. People are avoiding vaccinations and basic public health measures because they believe that COVID-19 is made in a government lab. Deaths and serious harm from conspiracy theories is an increasing risk right now. So this is a very real and I think ballooning issue in this moment.
And of course, Sherry still lives. I mean, her physical body is gone, but her words are with us, right? She still is on Facebook. She still is on YouTube. People are still listening to her Blog Talk radio show. And so it's out there. But the fact that it's out there is, again, it's not as worrisome as the fact that people are looking for it.
Drop it. Drop it. No. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Stop. I wanted to speak to you guys because Barbara's not some kind of monster. She got sucked into something that was way above her head. And it's terrible. And I want people to understand that she's not a monster. My kid's mom really is just a very timid person that's very mixed up, and she needs help.
Sherry's teaching and the way she ran her ministry had real-world effects. We're not just talking about people locked in their houses afraid of the reptiles. People died. People stopped talking to their families. They isolated themselves from relationships.
That's the hardest part. It's the hardest part about this whole thing. She was there. She was online. She wasn't with me. She was around. And I still held out hope that, we would have a good relationship someday, but now it's over. There isn't any hope. And she's gonna be in jail for a long time.
Stephen lost his life. Kelly lost her life. And Barbara lost her freedom.
I would say Sherry Shriner and her cult hurt a lot of people. She's used her group to hurt these people. I feel kind of bad for her group, that they're being manipulated. I feel kind of sorry for them, too.
Sherry facilitated,
Bye, Barbara.
if not directly caused, the absolute destruction of lives. This isn't just something that got made up on the internet.
I think the painful thing is I'm forgetting. You are asking me these questions and I have to try really hard to pull it back up. I don't want to forget, but I'm forgetting. And that's what's painful.
That's super cute.
My favorite.
I definitely want people to know that Kelly wasn't just like some crazy cult worshiper or some Satan worshiper or anything like that. She was just a nice woman. She was a nice young woman who wanted to help people. That's how I knew her, and that's how I want people to know her.
I knew Kelly for 8 years, and she's been gone for 8 years. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it's been that long. And I miss her every day.
I think we all have to ask ourselves how we've been implicated by Sherry Shriner, or how we've been implicated by fake news culture. I think we have to ask ourselves, what do we do to perpetuate it? I worry that we don't ask ourselves often enough, how are we at fault? How are we the problem? Sherry Shriner isn't reflective of what we are like, but she's an indication of how awful we can be. The fact that any of these conspiracy people get the kind of traction they get is a symptom that we're not paying attention to. And the symptom is that we don't have people in charge that we can trust. Conspiracy theorists, in that light, are more like just an early warning bell. There's bad things coming, and we need to deal with it. I mean, I don't love our odds, but before we just dismiss this as crazy people killing crazy people, they are an alarm bell going off, and we ignore it at our own peril.
If I were you and I were here at that time, I would be loading up on guns and ammo. I would be getting out of the cities. I would be fortifying whatever tent or house or trailer you have in the country and defending it. And it is your right as a believer in the Most High to defend yourself against these wicked, evil, Satanist, murderous thugs who want to kill you and your family. Anyway, folks, till next week, everybody. God bless.
Tỷ số bây giờ đang là 1-1 cho cả hai đội. Có thể dứt điểm